shit that you've been told, and you need that info. Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV. Tune in to consciousness and watch the lies fold, then you can let the truth flow. On Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV. When you feel that melanin about to explode, like you feel the wind blow. It's Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV. I know you got the truth, but you can get more, so you continue to grow. Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV.
What you got coming up, brother? Oh, the grip.
The grip in the building.
Come on, talk about that. When is that?
Exposing the demonic influence in today's music on February night at Nicholas, Brooklyn, 570 Fulton Street. Don't miss it with Black Dot, Nairobi Sila, and Minister Asher Muhammad gonna be in the building. Sonetta say he coming, so make sure he get the DVD. And make sure he get the DVD also, just in case. But we're gonna be doing it at Nicholas, man. College students, you get a discount.
But you always have something going. What's behind that?
You know what is that. After that is the Women's History Month celebration for all the beautiful women, all the new women speakers I got coming out. That's hitting the street. That's March the 9th. April, we got, of course, the elders, the Council of Elders, Ray Higgins, James Smalls, Booker T. Coleman, Kaba, of course, Brother Kaba, and of course, Rosalind Jeffries, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries, and Queen of Four together on one stage. And it's called, the title is, What is Consciousness and Is There Conscious Community? Done deal, right here at the National Black Theater.
Yes, sir.
So
all right, my brother.
Hopefully Sonetta will be there.
I will be there for that one, because I'm going to get interviews out there.
Yeah, I know you.
With all the elders, so you know I got to be here for that.
It's just a small elder, but we know how it is. We're going to try to build that whole gap.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You already know.
Yes, sir.
Integrity, okay. He said that the prophet never went to the Pan American Conference in Cuba. He showed a document from the so-called U.S. government saying that this is the list of all the delegates that went there on behalf of the United States.
I'm taping. It's good. It's good.
Because the prophet is not a citizen of the United States, right? He's representing the ancient Moorish Empire of Mexico. So his name would not be on that list as a delegate for the U.S. democracy.
Not just that. What you have to look at is also the COINTELPRO operations. Also, them doing the cover-up and the infiltration that was with Coolidge, because remember Coolidge made the statement that if he could get over 500 to follow him, he'd back him with his army and navy, and of course you got over 1 million, and then that includes Garvey's people who are also conscious. But as it has been, when you check the federal records, when you do the research on even on histories of American religion documents in the Library of Congress, what you'll see, there's a common thread. And that is not only with the infiltration, with the COINTELPRO operations, because one of the focuses that they did with the COINTELPRO operations was taking into consideration that they would have difficulty having agents in all of different organizations. So the strategy, if you look at the FBI papers, is to infiltrate the orders. And get people, mostly Christian ministers, to be leaders.
They did the same thing with Garvey.
And then to neutralize the civic side of the operations. And this took place with both Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And these are some of the things that Malcolm found out.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned Marcus Garvey, Taj. Didn't Marcus Garvey, his top soldiers, his generals, was Hebrew Israelites?
Yeah, and see, this is what you must know, and this is part of the dynamics of people really kind of understanding the true history, because you have Moorish Science Temple, then you have Moorish Hebrew, or what you call Moorish Jewish temples. See, the whole concept, I think, and we need to, how do you say, get information out to our people without them being sensitive to their belief systems, and comprehend that we're all Hebrew. But it's not a religion the way it's presented, and we're not a different people. All it represents when you look like, say, chapter 47 in the Circle 7 Quran, or you deal with brothers and sisters from Hikupta who really know the history, and you know that all the priesthood know that Africa, what they call Egypt, is Hikupta. For sociologists, the word Egypt is used, which is a modern contemporary designation given by German scholars. But the proper name is Hikupta. And from Ptah, this is where you get Peter in the Bible. And a lot of it has to do with the misconceptions that the Europeans have perpetrated relative to Jews. There is no Jew. We're Yahudi. And the Yahudi are those of the Asiatics that crossed the river. And this has to do with the ancient Superdivere, the great Annexum Superdivere, and that is just like a survey. And this is where the land was divided between Ham and Cush, simply father and son. And in the principles, the Asiatics crossed the river. You know, the father crossed the river and left the land. And so when a lot of people look at the history, when they look at the Prince James versions of the Septuaginta, and who was later to become King James version of the Septuaginta, most of the people aren't even aware of the Septuaginta, and they won't even teach of the Septuaginta because most of them have been, how do you say, Constantinized, or modern Christianity. And so, yes, go ahead.
Would it be fair to say that the Moors of history and the Hebrews of history
same people?
That's what I was going to ask.
This is one of the biggest frauds that has come down the pike that causes divisions with our people.
Right. Which came to split, though? Because now you got a group that's saying the Moors and then the group saying
look, even those dynamics.
Yes.
Even those dynamics. And what you'll find is most of the time that will come from people who come from what we have come to call schools of thought. However, when you go back into history, and this is one of the things that I recognize that's terribly injurious to us, even in our dealings with each other, which will demonstrate as soon as you see them getting together arguing dogma and calling it religion, because most of the masses don't get religion. Right. And that's not an attack on anyone, that's just simply the truth.
But the Hebrews say that it's not a religion.
But listen.
Yeah,
let's
nationality
come,
for them.
Let's come.
Say.
I'm not arguing that.
Right.
I am saying we are the same people. We, the Moors of the North Gate, are referred to as the Ibri, which some people call Hebrew. It is no Hebrew, it's Ibri. That's those of us who crossed the river. It cannot be emphasized enough. There is no difference between us and our brothers and sisters on the other side of the water after the land's separated, except some of us are mixed. Those who crossed the river are the Ibri, falsely called Hebrew. Hebrew is a modern corruption of Ibri. We are the Ibri. We're not different people. Problem, some of us know it has to do with the dividing of the land. Others, based on the way the Europeans have taught the books, think it's a different people with a different religion, with some kind of special relationship with the divine creator that nobody else has. When we're all brothers, sisters, cousins, and all of us can be traced to the same families. And what you find, it is really a reflection of what has been traditionally groomed amongst our people, which is self-hatred. Also, when you go back into the ancient culture of the Asiatics, you'll find that Moor and African are used synonymously throughout the world until about the 1600s. You know, and this includes people calling themselves whatever they want to call themselves. You understand? Even including the brands given by the Europeans. And it's interesting because one of the things that you'll recognize this too, Sanetta, is when you go back into the ancient world, you'll find that we were philosophical scientists. We were not what you would call dogmatists in the religious formats that you express today. As a matter of fact, in the not so much distant ancient world, mosques were universities. They were not places where you go pray, make salat, as you see traditionally now. Same thing with the synagogues.
It was school, court.
They were universities. You learned everything about life, from astrology, cosmology, philosophies, 7 liberal arts, agriculture, mathematics, calculus, etc., ephemerides, star charts, elements, metal tables, etc. As a matter of fact, even in our culture, Tetragrammaton actually deals with the 4 gates and the 4 elements. And yet Tetragrammaton is presented to people who don't understand it as the ineffable word or 4-letter word. You know, YHWH, and then those who don't understand the science just say Yahweh, you know, right. And then those who don't understand that say Jehovah. And yet those same people will turn around and condemn cosmology, which is actually the foundation of all religions on the planet. And so what you find is people sitting around debating their beliefs that have nothing to do with the science of life. And so the masses today have what you call club belief systems. And if you really pay attention to many of our people, and it's really unfortunate, and I don't condemn them, I'm just observing. And watch us, being you're a journalist in many ways. And for the different people that you deal with around this country, and some, you know, from other nation states that may travel through, you'll find that one of the greatest damaging aspects of our fallen culture here in North America with the Asiatics, people of Asiatic African birth, is that they have fallen into the trickster psychology of European divisionism, and they identify themselves by their belief systems, not by their blood. As a matter of fact, they don't recognize nationhood nor bloodline, which of course is why, if you'll pay attention to us, our people hide behind their so-called beliefs for this imitation power that none of us possess. The power that we actually need in our unity. The power that we actually lost for having become divided with our banal belief systems, most of which, when traced back, have no foundation rooted in the original Zoroaster culture or the original principles of Islam and Yahudi, or what you call the philosophies, which are actually Gnostic and cosmological philosophies. The metaphysical microcosm, macrocosm elements of the earth study, and the ephemerides by which we guide government.
How do you make that connection between the Kemetic people, the Moors, and the Hebrew?
It's like a Chinese talking about what's the difference between Chinese and light-skinned yellow people and dark-skinned yellow people. The fact of it is no such thing as light-skinned yellow people and dark-skinned yellow people. They're Chinese or Manchurian. How about that? And this goes the same thing with our people identifying their belief systems as their bloodline identity, which is an indication that they don't even know fundamental civilization. However, that's not a condemnation. Anybody that knows civilization understands that's a flaw. And of course, that comes from European socialization, where, as you pay attention to our people, distinguish some of these same people that claim the so-called spiritual knowledge don't even know that spirit refers to breath alone. And the philosophies, the Gnostic philosophies, constitutes the religion. One of the biggest frauds that I keep hearing is that the Kemetic people and the Moors are two different people.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's a fraud. In other words, the foundation is a fraud, but it's also an indication that somebody does not know history, and someone does not know bloodline. And the very fact that they even present that issue is like saying, what's the difference between Ham and Cush, father and son? What else do you want to know? Now, as an example, when Rahm Emanuel, who was in what you call contemporary times, a Jew, as you would say, and we know it's actually Yahudi, left the Obama administration and he went to run for mayor in Chicago, which is a sister city of Mecca. In accord with the Circle 7 principle, which is the culture of the planet, on December the 22nd of 2011, he issued a proclamation acknowledging both Noble Ali, the history of the Moors, and the traverse here. Rahm Emanuel, the Jew. Keep in mind that the civilized world has been appealing to the Asiatics of the Northwest for quite more or less publicly since about the 40s, late 40s, to nationalize. If you deal with the rights of indigenous people, which is recent, which Obama signed, if you deal with the Universal Proclamation of Human Rights 49 era, the rights of a child in 1959, treaty enforcement under Bill Clinton, etc., you'll find that the civilized world has consistently presented to our people here in North America to nationalize in all of those public laws, but yet even in accord with the International Forum, it is given that all civic organizations, all church organizations, etc., community organizations, are to distribute that information at all costs. And as you can see, there's a perception out there in the public that only the active Moors are doing this thing as if it's our agenda, and it's the agenda of the world, including with all of these persons who are sitting around debating these things that are not debatable. Also keep in mind, when Rahm Emanuel issued that proclamation, which can be found on, it's available on websites. December the 22nd, you're dealing with just the entry of the winter solstice in accordance with the North Gate. Now, of course, that is also symbolized when people make the Hajj, if people really know the science. It's also symbolized with Circle 7. It's also symbolized with the metaphysical principles of the Master Seal, and the Nimbus, and the Mundane Cross. But what you'll discover is that many people that are debating dogmatism, which is a counterfeit version of religion, they're arguing belief systems. And when people are really dealing with religion, they're not dealing with beliefs, they're dealing with knowledge. And what you find is most neophytes are not aware of that, because most of their leaders are pretty much sellouts. No. And it's just like Freemasonry. When you hear people talk about Illuminati, you hear a lot of people in the name of being so-called religious condemning Brother Jay-Z and Sister Beyonce, Rihanna.
And
that's their seal.
Is this evil?
No.
The goat sign?
No.
What does that mean, brother?
Fertility. Ancient Africa, it means fertility.
You can see it on the wall.
But listen to this.
Fertility.
Yes. All over the world. Now, you know where it comes from? And this is provable. This is really provable. And this is when you know, when you hear people run around talking about, oh, we've studied ancient Kemet, right, and don't even recognize the symbols, including the symbol of civilization on the planet Earth, which is the Great Kunta, or what you call the pyramid, and calling it a sign of the devil. When they look at the sign of the goat and call it the devil, because the European through the Inquisition operations has referred to anything that is of Asiatic African descent as being satanic. And even all the scholars know that Satan is simply the planet Saturn. And that the devil is the word lived, put in a mirror, spelled backwards. And the priesthood controls the masses who don't study true history and law, keeps them under control with the mysticism of the devil.
Got them backwards.
And at the same time, they'll throw the word God around, don't even know it's a Germanic word, and it's not a noun, it's a verb transitive.
So let me
It means to call upon, let me finish, it means to call upon, to invoke, and to pour out. This is where you get the ritual of libation. It's an action, not a being. And the same ones that make that debate will turn around and say, well, Satan is the God of this world. Well, when they collecting finance for God, which one they talking about? They don't start talking about big G's and little G's, please.
So are you an atheist? Do you believe in God, the higher power?
Sure, I believe in God. Aren't God in all of us? Tell me anything or any being that can't believe in God when God is the fact of your existence. But hold on.
Okay.
The concept and how it's presented is where the twist comes. Because most people throw it around assuming that it's the name of the supreme being creator, when it's a title applied to anything from drugs to dirt to evil to good to anything in between. And if you want to find somebody that's dangerous to you, you want to find somebody that's dangerous to your children, you want to find somebody cast spells of evil on you that wish you harm, find a believer that start throwing the word God around and judging everybody. And you'll usually find the most evil, vile, self-righteous, poisonous, and toxic and hateful people that the world has ever known.
Wow. So what about the opposite side of that, devil? Do you believe
Let me say
devil?
this. The devil is...
No, I know. I'm just saying this
devil
this is for the
is
people.
the word lived spelt backwards. And all these same people that claim to believe in God believe in the devil, because they're preoccupied with fighting him with imaginary money and got an imaginary bank account at Chase Manhattan that they give Jesus his half, and usually the preacher's down in Bahamas with Susie, but she's usually singing in the choir. Now, and I'm going to say this way. Do you notice how those setup, or what you call loaded type questions, are always thrown around with the idea that you're assuming that these are representing beings, creative beings and destructive beings, when those who really study cosmology and the religion of the world find out that it has, if anything, in relationship to ourselves, it has to do with the higher self and the lower self, nothing more. And most of them don't even know the Kabbalistic nature of the background of the religions that they claim to be a part of. And all you got to do is test them. For instance, as Muslim, you ask the average Muslim, what do those 7 circles, that circle 7 around Kaaba, represent? Aside from the mathematics, from the ritual that is done with the body that represents the mathematics of the transits of the planets. Ask them the value measurement symbolic of each one of those counter rotations around the cube, which is Kaaba. And then ask them what is Kabbalism. And most of them will start talking about that shirt. It's the devil.
Right.
But yet the ritual represents the rotationary orbital planes of the 7 ruling planets. And the meteorite within the Kaaba represents that we weren't always on this particular planet. And in the other corner is a woman buried. And Allah is a feminine name. Now,
yes,
and all of your African deities, your ancient African deities, are feminine or female, or as you would say. And even when you're looking at Ibri, which is part of our culture too. So don't look at this thing like, you know, we Muslims over here and we Hebrew. We're both of them. Comprehend?
Right.
Because we are those who cross the river. It is misunderstanding. It is a miscalculation of Scripture, mostly groomed by European colonists. Meaning that when you look at people, like, let me present this to you. The average person that looks at that Bible and starts debating about King James, right? Most of them never seen the Bible when he was Prince James.
Right.
No, I never even heard that.
Yeah, but I'm just, because I'm a scholar.
That's powerful.
When
Yes,
I was
sir.
7 years old, I had the books, even with human skin. A couple of them with human skin.
And Bibles.
When King James was Prince, the same adoration they give to Yeshua, Isa, or what you call Jesus, after the Nicene Council, because there's no J in Hebrew, the same honor that they give to the churches in relationship to Jesus was first given to Prince James, and it was actually in the front of the book, but they removed them out. Not only that, if the average person that's using that book, ask them to give you just a fundamental overview of Septuaginta and the history of Septuaginta. And most of them couldn't tell you, because those were the first Bibles. But they're going to tell you about King James. Now, I'm not arguing about that. I'm just saying most of our debate comes because we're looking at even ourselves through an Eurocentric perspective and are arguing with each other because we hate each other, which is a European, Eurocentric perspective. Not only that, when you study our culture, we have a sempiternal culture. we absolutely have a sepulchral culture. And you look at the Asiatic culture, Asiatics, before European colonization, it is uncommon for anybody of Asiatic African descent not to speak less than 5 languages. Normal. Now they can't even speak one, and they're going to debate about the books that are translated out of the original tongues, out of the original culture, without its Kabbalistic background, without most of them knowing anything about the Septuaginta, nor the 72 scholars who were assigned by the popes of Rome to transliterate this stuff. Not only that, as an example, and I think we can move on to other things, just like most some people sit around debating about the Bible and Elohim, right?
Have you ever read the Bible?
Sure. What do you mean? I have 14 of them in my library since I was 7.5.
Beautiful. The reason I ask you that is because you'll find those who be having the debates, you'll come to find out they never even read the Bible. They going on belief or what somebody told them.
Now, this is what. Now, let me say this to you. Those same Masons that they condemn, part of their order is the preservation of the ancient truths. They will have the Septuaginta in the Hebrew, Septuaginta in the Latin. They will have the history of the Nicene Council when the Romans altered the books. They will have the Kabbalistic background. You can go in any of those lodges and they'll have carpets on the floor with the wings of Ma'at that cost more than these people's houses who calling them devil worshippers.
That's right.
Do you comprehend? Now, we're not talking about any one individual who may use or misuse knowledge, because knowledge is neutral. It's like water. It can grow a plant that also can drown you. It's like fire. It can heat your house and can burn it down, according to how it's used. Now, what we do know is that some Masonic orders are in allegiance with the popes of Rome with their Spanish Inquisition operations that causes injury to our people. However, that's not to be confused with the knowledge that they may contain. The knowledge that they have pretty much is what you call world knowledge or the sublime knowledge of the earth, because those who rule must know what's really going on to keep it away from those who are considered profane or those who are held to servitude, so that those who rule don't by advertent or inadvertent activity do some moral or ethical thing that would change the structure of European occupation of the Maghreb of the Western Hemisphere. So don't confuse that, the knowledge that Masons have, with what Masons may do from the different orders, whether they're dealing with Scottish rites or York rites or anywhere in between, including the fact that Asiatic lodges and European lodges are separate.
Who would you say is the ruler of the world right now?
Pope of Rome.
Is it the Vatican?
Pope of Rome. And this is the other deal. If anybody knows, see, this is the, let me say this, Sonetta.
People would say Jews, right?
Yes.
When we start being honest with each other, and when we begin to really take an approach to try to help our people, we will all come to the same conclusions. You know, you hear all the term that says, all roads lead back to Abraham. Now, if you say that to most people, they'll start talking about their belief systems. But yet, in its real original Kabbalistic form, it really represents the activation of the chakras and the lighting of the fire in the head, or what they call the Krishna degree, the Christ degree, upon which all religion only exists to achieve. Do you comprehend?
Yeah, I hear you.
No, whether it's Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, or what you call Orthodox Christianity outside of the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed of Constantine and his mothers, which is used to rule and condemn them. Because they're my brothers.
Right.
You understand? I would appeal that we would do better for each other. And I would say that every one of them should have a Septuaginta. Septuaginta is the first Bibles. Okay. So if you or I are going to be a scholar and talk about, we're going to debate this book, we should certainly know its foundation, shouldn't we? And then know that that came from the Book of the Dead. And that these Kabbalistic processes repeat themselves. This is nothing new. This is the other deal. Oh, King Simon. Turn the camera on.
It's on. Okay, let the
family.
What's up, beloved? How you doing?
This is the New York producer.
His birthday's coming up. His birthday's coming up. His birthday coming up. My birthday coming up.
Oh man, hold on. You got a birthday coming up, bro.
February 14th.
Mine's February 1st.
February 14th. What we gonna do?
Mine's February 1st.
What we gonna do for his birthday, brother?
I don't know.
We come around and see you, man. Come around and see you. Bring the children some gifts, man. While they're still young, because you already know they're getting
I would
ready
like
to
for you to take this time out because you've been missing damn near this whole winter right now. Talk about what you've been doing. The great words. I know you've been traveling, brother.
Yes, I've been traveling.
Talk about
that. I talk to a lot of people, actually, other nationals. And the interesting, let me give this to you, Sonetta. We were coming from a class in Delaware, which we do at the Ram House with Dr. Nyla Gilliam, who holds Ram sessions, 602 Van Dever in Delaware. We do that regularly. Myself, Sister Sandra, who's a teacher, and Sister Delilah, who also films a lot of the classes, and Brother Abdul, pardon me. We were coming in from Delaware, and so I stopped. We stopped on 40th and Market to the store to pick up some food, and the brothers in there noticed my ring. Actually, brother at the front counter noticed my ring, and he said that's Palestinian. He said that's Palestinian. I said, well, Islam. I said it means Allah. He said, yes, it means Allah. And he said he was speaking with an accent. He says yeah, we're Palestine. I'm Palestine. And then
this is a brother or Palestinian.
Palestinian at the store. Yeah. And this is just actually this past week when we first had the first snow, and so he says, where are you from? Well, you saw my seal, my
so you had
Moorish flag, my Moorish flag. I just had my Moorish flag on because I had a scully on.
Right.
And I said, we're from Morocco here. He says, oh, the Maghrib. Oh, and he just continued the conversation. Everybody knows this is Maghrib. The only ones that don't know it is our people.
I asked the brother about the connection between the Moors and the Hebrews and were they the same people. The brother respectfully bowed out and said he don't have that type of information.
This is the deal.
Now we got the Grandmaster Teacher here, and he's going to break that down for us.
This is the deal. We're the same people. We're divided by beliefs that have nothing to do with origin, but has much to do with Inquisition operations and just like this. For instance, like you'll see many of our people will say they're African with one breath and then turn around and talk about their black people.
Right.
Do you hear Chinese talking about their Chinese and then talking about their yellow people?
No.
Because they know that human beings aren't crayons. That's the first indicator when people really don't know civilization, when they start thinking that human beings are crayons and have not studied that the Dutch masters introduced that for social controls in the Western Hemisphere.
When did we start calling ourselves black?
No, when the Europeans started calling us black.
Okay.
When he started trading places. Because the Europeans are black man. Black is Europe. It means shining. It means pale. But again, that's because our people can't read, and the European knows our people can't read. And so, like say for instance, like if you go say a few generations back, maybe even before you was here, if someone called our people black, they had a fight.
That's
because
true.
They knew that you were trying to steal their birthright. After so many generations, they lost track. Because, generations, they lose reference points. Then after James Brown did that Black and I'm Proud song in the name of, trying to pep our people up, our people started embracing it. However, it is a Germanic word. It is Middle English. And it's back to, let me give you an example. Adeptus degree. Like most of the people, when they look at the movie, when the minister came to Malik and gave him an adept degree. An adept degree, not the adept degree, an adept degree. most people, when they look at the movie, they look at it from the perspective that there's a good brother taking consideration of another brother and loaning him his dictionary to improve his vocabulary. That's the perspective, isn't it? Well, he gave him an adeptus degree, and that is teaching him what all ministers know, what all scholars know, which all PhDs know, which all Master Masons know, what all Skull and Bones know, all persons who are in position of what you call authority or the philosophers, etc. And this is how to read a dictionary. Mm-hmm. The first thing you do when you look at a word is you do not go into its linear entries. You immediately go into its matrix, which is its part of speech, which are 8 parts of speech. And you will find the part of speech written in italic directly after the word. So the first thing you do, you plug it in its proper matrix. Then you go to the sound of the word and you go to the etymon, which is in the brackets. And then you take the etymon, you still don't go into the linear entry. You take the etymon, you go into the appendix, usually in the back of the book. And you'll look at the root word and you'll find or trace it to its original meaning. You'll look at, like, say, for instance, you might see ME, Middle English, you might see OHG, Old High German. First thing you do, you may go in the front or the back, and you put a timeline on it. Mm-hmm. Then, now remember this, the word, the matrix or part of speech, the etymon, and from the etymon, from its origin, etymon will give you its origin, and then it will give you its true meaning, history, etc. And so you put a timeline, which is mathematics. And then you know whether a scholar is taking something that may be constructed in present time, contemporarily, for social engineering purposes, and made it retroactive to cause deception, misrepresentation, or distorted meanings. And this is the fundamental rule of the etymon. That's an etymon degree. That's what was shown to Il Malik. All ministers know that. All Masons know that. And not that every Mason knows that, meaning this information is available to people who have title. Like, say, for instance, this is when, as you already know, anyone in what you would call schools of thought, in order to qualify for their PhD, their doctorate degree, they must produce a treatise and some written literature that must be produced for the public's cross-criticism, analysis, etc., before carrying that title. Indeed. And you'll find people that carry all kinds of titles, doctor this and doctor that, and have not produced one piece of literature. Mm-hmm. Also, a lot of them don't do it because they know that a real scholar knows the etymon principle, and they can go and look at their stuff and look at the words that they're used and go ahead and place it in its time slot and recognize whether they're COINTELPRO operatives or not. A person who can't read would not know that. Mm-hmm. And this is the advantage that scholars have that is missing with most of our people. And this is one of the reasons that I always appreciate Brother Abdullah's work. And I think that more people should pay attention to that, because that principle, even though it's part of Moorish science, it's part of Asiatic African culture. And they keep looking at Moorish science as if it's some belief system, which is a fraud.
So when people say that, you know, that the people can't read, right? And then you might have somebody who could understand words and things of that nature, and they like, I could read. I know how to read. You know, I read the biggest words. But what you're saying is, etymology-wise, you can't read because you're not able to decipher.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this. And I always like to, when a lot of times, sometimes me and Dooley does classes together. Now, he's a master etymologist, mm-hmm. right? And I know fundamental, but he's the master. Yes. But I understand this principle. And one thing I've always done with my children, I use a symbol of the structure of an atom with a nucleus, electron and protons, and the ribs, etc. And then I use the same symbol with ABCs in the middle, you know, in the true meaning, history, and meaning of a word, as a symbol for the etymon. As a matter of fact, I use that on the cover of my book, Wardship Dispeller, mm-hmm. which is not an etymology book, but it is a fundamental etymology on the word God for reversal principles, social reversals. Okay. When it comes to real structure of an etymology book, I would come to Abdullah.
Yeah.
But I do it to present the honor and the integrity of etymology. So you can look at etymology, look at a seed. What a seed is to a word, what an egg is to a being, what a seed is to a plant, what a core of anything is to any particular element. The etymon is to every word.
Indeed.
This is a principle in linguistics. It is not optional based on what school of thought you're from. For this goes to literature and literary thought and grammatication around the planet. And it was particularly part of the sciences that was brought to Europe by the Moors in the 1300s in what is known as the Renaissance. And this is why those who really know history and world government knows that the Europeans are ruling these Asiatics with their own stuff. And our people sit around calling education European stuff, and it's their own stuff. And these Masons and Skull and Bones and all these people, all these Rhodes scholars, are simply Europeans who have preserved the knowledge of the Moors and are referred to as Renaissance men. And that's why all of their secret societies, when they do their rituals, they will wear the Moorish fez.
Indeed.
They will even dress it in jewels. And that goes for the presidents right on down, including George
But they got
Washington
the sword on there. What does that mean?
Subjugation of, that's the Moorish sword with the dual-edged sword. It has a dual meaning. It's the tongue. It also represents justice. But of course, the head of the Sphinx, it also represents the subjugation of the Moabite woman, which means you conquer the woman, you got the nation. Because they know in according with nature, not what people's belief systems are. If you conquer the woman, you already know you got the son, because woman produces both male and female, and all eggs are first feminine. And so all the ego systems that our people have adopted from the European colonial belief systems has no foundation in African culture, because all African cultures are actually matriarchies. And what you'll see that most of these brothers and sisters that are debating these things now are dealing with a patriarchal system that they've adopted from Rome, which is a corrupted perspective even going into so-called African spirituality, which is pretty much a partial misrepresentation. And it's doing us an injustice. But it's ancient. It's ancient Amexem. The deal of it is we're the same people. And this, if you pay attention to this, so many people are debating about what they want to call themselves and what they need to recognize. You check the records of the world. The last legal name of these people of so-called African, Kemetic, Amexem descent, Asiatic African, in the Western Hemisphere that has been under European rule, etc. The last legal name of these people collectively across the planet is Moroccan, Moors, which is short and is used synonymously with people of Asiatic African descent. And that's a bloodline. It's not a color, it's not a belief, and it's not a term. Black is a term. Negro is a term. They don't know the difference between terms and bloodlines. They don't know pedigree. And they're debating pedigree with code systems that are used by European Dutch masters. You know how you can tell an Asiatic a free man, basically?
How?
From a national?
How?
I mean, from what you call chattel property. You get any bunch of our people, and they can go to any of these so-called nation states where their so-called beliefs are housed. Whether you're talking about Yahudism, you know what I mean, Ibri, etc., Christianity, or Islam, etc. And you'll notice that every one of our people that claim to be black and stuff like that will be treated totally differently and not with the same respect as the other civilized human beings, including people who come here that may have the same so-called beliefs that we keep on trying to defend without having a knowledge of them, not even recognizing that half of them being tampered with. And that's not we're not condemning people. We're saying that people really need to study and stop identifying themselves by their belief system. They're dismissible. Let's talk about the bloodline, the brotherhood of man, the unity of our people, and the fundamental universal principles of philosophies that comprise religions across the planet that are based in divine laws of nature having nothing to do with belief systems whatsoever. And that's the religion distinguished from the dogmatism, which has to do with interrupted cultures where people are insecure and they make up stuff and add it under the name of Jesus, God, Allah, Muhammad, in order to try to control other people, either by mind control or some political agenda that has nothing to do with divine law.
Powerful, brother.
And furthermore, when you study it, half the stuff that people are debating about, if you examine the foundation of the major religions, you'll see most of it is dealing with dogma doctrine and not actually with the root principles of the religions. For instance, like you can ask most of them whether they're so-called Jews, claiming to be Jews, or Muslims, Christians, whatever, and just ask them to just express and explain the 7 Hermetic principles. And most of them can't get past 3. And some of them don't even get past 1. But they're going to tell you about the books. When all of the books, this is a fact, that's provable. All of those books where you're dealing with the Quran, Waspi, Torah, Tanakh, Pentateuch, Hexateuch, all of them are Kabbalistic in nature. Entirely. Entirely. Now, imams know that, rabbis know that, and all reverend scholars know that. Now, the deal is ministers' papers. That's the point. Not only that, listen. Noble Drew Ali said, help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution of the United States of America, right? And then you hear some of the most high-positioned people in the order say Drawley never taught civics. Constitutional enforcement is the highest level of civics. It's not even debatable, but yet people debate it. The deal of it is, when you know this, you don't give them the energy because you know they're there for just what they're doing, to create the division. But you don't get angry. You don't get angry. This is Drew Ali. Drew Ali says, well, Jared. Drew Ali says, when you're around a bunch of Moors that are not carrying out my law and creating a lot of confusion, get out from under them. Go find somebody that's doing good and help them do more good. He did not play clubism. And he said, this Drew Ali said this, he said, I am a universal prophet, and my philosophy will be universal. I only came to you Moors because you need me the most. Translation, don't get it twisted. They don't own him, but yet they act like it, don't they? Violation again. You know, these principles are universal. And this is the interesting thing. What you see, all this also, Sinetta, if you will start, matter of fact, when we come to the house for the babies and everything, right? We'll have the babies take I'm going to give them some stuff for themselves and little notebooks for them to take notes and give reference points. Now, you got Black's Law at your house, right?
Yeah.
4th edition. Right, 4th edition. And you already know, you got the English Heritage Dictionary?
Yeah.
All right, and you've got etymology dictionary in the English language?
Yeah.
All right, make sure your babies have that. It's so easy to take children and give them a fundamental education. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times when different brothers are debating, you know, you take a neutral position because you're an editor.
Right.
You're a journalist. but for the sake of our people would help to school them and wake them up. Sometimes with the positions they hold, because a lot of it is on emotion, but they're not really dealing with facts. And what you find is that and this is a damaging thing that we do often, we're more into protecting our schools of thought than we are into recognizing the nation. So when we go out into the world, whether people say they're Christian, Jew, Muslim is irrelevant, because most of these are corrupted systems of social control. You recognize them as a nation of people who don't recognize themselves as a nation, who are under occupation. And most of these dogmatisms are confusions. That's another reason why I don't get into these debates with them. Because I already know, for the most part, it's going to digress to destructive